Welcome to our episode of Bargain Saturdays, and this week I decided to take a look at Caryl the Mountains, which I got, in this Rin Tin Tin Junior pack. Yeah, I kind of forgot about the Junior, because they have it in, like, the smallest little small print on there. We're like, we're kind of embarrassed, we got the son of the legend, not the actual legend himself. So we gotta hide it in the small print, like it's one of those like clauses, in the Santa Claus sequels. You're like, you gotta read the fine print, sir. Like, okay. But at any rate, in Caryl of the Mountains, we're following a bit more complicated plot than the last one. Basically, we start off with Caryl Foray stealing from her boss. They're like, okay, so we have a dog's going to attack the woman. Like, no. No, Carol's stealing from her boss because he's trying to embezzle a bunch of securities and run away with them. Because I guess he's doing some sort of, like, investment firm, but he's basically just trying to scam a bunch of people and take the money for himself, then flee to another country. So, Caryl decides to step in by stealing the money before he can and sends it to her uncle. Unfortunately, while she's doing this, she does some rather suspicious activity right in front of her boss, and while he doesn't call her out immediately, he does figure out, she sent the funds off to Canada, because, her uncle's a French-Canadian fur trapper. So he heads up, across the border to go bug her uncle about, where the security funds are at. And when he refuses to talk, he pulls out his gun. A struggle ensues. He accidentally shoots the guy, and then just starts ransacking the place a bit, trying to figure out, where the securities are hidden. Because he knows they had to have been sent there, because he has a letter, from Caryl telling him to keep the funds safe. Of course, her uncle has a little hidey spot, next to the fireplace with a fake stone over a hole. So the guy never finds them and just leaves and heads back stateside, while having charges pressed against Miss Caryl to basically throw all the blame on her for the embezzlement, because it's like, well, I ain't got a better plan right now. You think he'd try running much further away after the whole murder thing, but, he's like, I'm across state lines, and who would think, I would be up there, potentially, messing with one of my employees' uncles, like, that's such a strange connection to make, I don't know if it's that strange of a connection to make, but yeah. It seems to be what he's relying on. And on his way out, apparently, Rinty got either hit by a bullet or got hit some other way. I have to admit, I was only half paying attention to the film, because the acting is not particularly good in this film. I mean, it's passable, I suppose, but a lot of the dialogue is lived with either very thick accents, which makes things harder to understand than it should be, or you have people delivering stuff in such a matter-of-fact tone that it's just very monotone and boring. You just don't want to listen to them. So, yeah, this is not a good film, when it comes to the human actors. Then you also have the oddness of the film, that they don't really use music very well to enhance scenes. It's largely doesn't have background songs, which, like, kind of ruins, the final chase sequence. You're like, you need a tune here, like to pump us up, because it's the big chase scene, the big finale, and we don't get one. But yeah, after he goes home and the male lead, gets Rinty to a Native American doctor to help heal him up. He goes back to the house with Rinty, and they manage to find a button that came from the killer's coat. Because apparently during the struggle, one of them broke off and just fell on the cabin floor, and no one noticed it, because, Mounties apparently do not check the scene very thoroughly. At any rate, after, Rinty helps find the funds, they go back to base and, send a message to the guy like, oh, we found your security funds, come and get them. While he's filling out the paperwork to get all that stuff back and whatnot, everyone else is, like, closing in on him, is like, oh, we have evidence that he was trying to embezzle the money, because he wasn't as good covering his tracks up as he thought, because I guess Caryl, had copied some of the files or something, or could still actually get in the office because she still had a key, so she could bring a private investigator in there, to look at the files, proving he was going to be the one that was really going to try and run away with the money. Only her... So, yeah. It's a bit of a mess, in the middle there. But yeah, eventually, he tries to do a runner and gets chased down by the dog after evading capture by all the humans for a bit. Because, Rinty just knows where this guy's gonna go. That has to be it, because, Rinty climbs up in the tree and then jumps on the guy while he's riding a horse. It's just like this is not something you can do and make it work unless you knew where he was going to be passing by. It's not like the dog ran him down on foot either, while he was on foot. He was riding a horse, so he must have been riding really slow if the dog got out in front of him. Because you think he'd be running the horse as hard as he can, too. Oof. Like, I'm trying to get away from the Mounties. And a police officer, from New York's finest in a car. I need to hurry up with all the horsepower I have. It just takes a rather apparently sedate pace after he gets out of eyesight, of some of the people chasing after him. He's like, I'm in the woods, it's fine. Just like, you think he'd be putting, as much, horsepower to his escape as possible, but apparently not. So, yeah. It's not the worst film I've ever seen. In fact, it's pretty much a passable movie, for what it wants to be, but at the same time, it's definitely not a film I care to watch again, because, it's just average at best, and probably a bit below average, if we're being honest. Well, till next time, then. See ya.
That's Rinty.
Hold it, Minnie. Wait a minute. Lie down, you. Say, wait a minute. Hold it, you. Take him away from me. Keep him off me. Take him away from me.
Quiet, Minnie, quiet. It's all right.
Keep him off.
Stay, boys. Hey.